Welcome back to Lit Achieve Academy, the channel where we make literature fun and relatable. Today we are diving into one of the quirkiest and most entertaining poems in Indian English literature, Nissim Ezekiel's Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpa T.S. Let's move into the author. Okay, so Nissim Ezekiel, he was born on 16 December 1924 in Bombay. His works include 1952 Time to Change, 60 poems, The Discovery of India, The Third, The Unfinished Man, The Exact Name, Snakeskin and Other Poems, translations of the Marathi poet Indra Sant, and 1976 he wrote Hymns in Darkness, followed by 1982 Latter-day Psalms, and in 1989 collected poems of 1952 to 1988. His notable work is Night of the Scorpion and Latter-day Psalms. His notable awards include Sahitya Academy Award in the year 1983 and Padma Shri in 1988. Okay, now we'll move on to the poem Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpa T.S. by Nissim Ezekiel. Hope you can see it clearly. Okay, so before beginning the poem, if you ever given a farewell party, or if you have ever been to a farewell party where someone gave a speech that was well awkward but heartfelt, you're going to love this poem. It's funny, it's sweet, and it's got all the charm of an unpolished but genuine farewell speech. Let's break it down together. So here's the deal. The poem is basically a farewell speech for Miss Pushpa T.S. who's leaving for foreign. Yes, that's exactly how the speaker says it. Right away you know this is going to be fun because the speaker's English is full of quirks and odd phrases. But here's the thing, it's not about perfect grammar or fancy words. It's about the emotion. The speaker genuinely admires Miss Pushpa and wants to celebrate her even if he fumbles along the way. Let's go line by line, shall we? Let's start reading the poem. Friends, our dear sister is departing for foreign in 2-3 days, and we are meeting today to wish her bon voyage. So in these lines, the speaker starts a farewell speech by announcing that Miss Pushpa is leaving for a foreign country in a few days. Instead of saying abroad, he uses the word foreign, which sounds funny and informal. He also uses the word 2-3 days, right? He also uses the word 2-3 days. Instead of a couple of days, we usually say a couple of days, not 2-3 days, which shows his casual and slightly incorrect English. Bon voyage here is a formal phrase meaning have a good trip. Now let's continue the poem, the second stanza. You're all knowing friends. What sweetness is in Miss Pushpa? I don't mean only external sweetness, but internal sweetness. In these 4 lines, the speaker tells everyone how sweet Miss Pushpa is. He says she's not just sweet on the outside, her looks or behavior, but also sweet on the inside, her personality. The repetition of sweetness, the repetition of this word sweetness and phrases like you're all knowing instead of you all know make the language sound funny and awkward again. Let's move on to the next line. Miss Pushpa is smiling and smiling, even for no reason, but simply because she is feeling. Here the speaker admires Miss Pushpa's habit of always smiling. He says she smiles even when there's no reason. Just because she feels happy or positive, she smiles. The phrase, simply because she is feeling, the last phrase, simply because she is feeling, is vague and odd, making it humorous. Now moving on to the next paragraph, next stanza. Miss Pushpa is coming from very high family. Her father was renowned advocate in Balsar or Surat. I'm not remembering now which place. Surat? Ah yes. Once only I stayed in Surat with family members of my uncle's very old friend. His wife was cooking nicely. That was a long time ago. So here the speaker talks about Miss Pushpa's background, saying she comes from a respected or a high family. He mentioned her father as a famous lawyer, that is an advocate, but forgets whether he worked in Balsar or Surat. This shows how unprepared and forgetful the speaker is, which adds to the humor. And even in the next stanza, he goes on saying about how he stayed in Surat with one of his family members and begins talking about his uncle's very old friend and that uncle's wife who cooked nicely for him a very long time ago. All these are not that important in a farewell speech, but then again the emotion is important here. Then next stanza, coming back to Miss Pushpa, she's most popular lady with men and ladies also. Whenever I asked her to do anything, she was saying, just now only I will do it. This is showing good spirit. I'm always appreciating the good spirit. Pushpa Miss is never saying no. Whatever I or anybody is asking, she's always saying yes. Right, we have read up to this. So we see that the speaker praises Miss Pushpa for being popular with everyone and always being willing to help. He recalls how she used to say, just now only I will do it, which is a direct translation from Indian languages and sounds funny in English. He calls this good spirit. Like willing to help everyone. Okay, showing he admires her enthusiasm. The speaker continues praising her for being helpful and kind. He says she never says no to anyone and always agrees to help. He adds that she is learning to improve her career or future. And today she is going to improve her prospect. And we are wishing her bon voyage. Now I ask others to speak and afterwards Miss Pushpa will do the summing up. Here in these last few lines, the speaker ends his speech by wishing her a good journey again. Then he invites others to speak and oddly says that Miss Pushpa will sum up at the end. This is strange because it's her farewell party and she shouldn't have to do that, which makes it funny again. So let's take a moment to unpack the key themes and takeaways from this poem. So we have a satire on Indian English. Okay, you have the satire on Indian English, which means the poem humorously highlights the peculiarities of Indian English, including grammatical errors. We see many grammatical errors in this poem. I'll put the next slide. Put up the next slide with regard to that. You can just check it. And there is awkward phrasing and direct translations from regional languages. And the second key theme might be cultural norms. Cultural norms. Okay, it reflects a formal and informal tone often used in Indian social gatherings. And then you have humor and irony. The humor comes from the speaker's awkward phrasing and over the top compliments, but it's all light-hearted and relatable. And finally, we have simplicity and innocence. Despite the humor, the poem captures the simplicity and warmth of the farewell gesture. So these can be the themes: innocence, simplicity and innocence. So before we wrap up, I want to share why Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpa T.S. is one of my personal favorites. This poem reminds me of all those moments when someone tries to express something meaningful but doesn't have the perfect words. Maybe it's a farewell speech or a thank you note or even just a casual conversation. The imperfections don't matter. What matters is the emotion behind it. Ezekiel captures something so human here, the way we connect with others, not through polished language, but through sincerity and warmth. For me, this poem is a gentle reminder to appreciate people for who they are, quirks and all that. So next time you're at a party and someone gives you a speech that's awkward or funny, remember this poem and smile. Because at the end of the day, it's a heart that speaks louder than the words. Alright, that's it for today's video. If you enjoy this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button share it with your lit loving friends, and subscribe for more fun takes on classic poems and stories. And I given you the common mistakes that are here at this poem. Just go through it, yeah. And hey, if you have ever been to a farewell party with a speech like this, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, keep smiling and smiling even for no reason. Thank you.